Hi, I am Mathieu Dacol, your lead data analyst for this study. I'm glad to finally be able to greet all of you from the staffing agency, the administration, all the medical staff, nurses, doctors, and even some people from the hospitals using the staffing agency services. Well, as a staffing agency, your main job is to meet the needs across all the states of America in medical staff, sending the right amount of medical staff to the right state at the right time. This is what you are here for today, and especially in order to plan for the next influenza season, your upcoming challenge. A challenge in order to use thoroughly all the resources available, these limited human resources we have, sending the best medical staff to the most needed area. And the success story would be also by avoiding or reducing deaths from the influenza across all 50 states. This calls for a great optimization of the repartition of all the medical staff during the next influenza season. But how to proceed? First questions coming to mind is the where and when to send this medical staff. For this study, I was able to use an official data set counting all mortality rates from the influenza or from any ILI. Here on the map on the left, the darker the blue, the more deaths there are. Clearly shown here in California, New York, Texas, Florida. And on the line chart on the right, you may see now the seasons of all of the deaths from 2009 to 2017. Overall, we noticed a pattern with high peaks of mortality in January. We could say that the season goes from December with a high peak in January up to March, as we see it in 2015. As we can play around on the map on the left, for example by clicking California, we noticed that seasons are even brighter on the eye for the seasons with more mortality rates. The same goes for New York, even for Texas and Florida. Each state is different, but still shows a great deal of seasoning. Well, now, how can we explain such a difference in mortality across states? The population and density is the first explaining why. I was able to use a sensing from also an official dataset across all of the states. Here on the map now it shows population in relation to mortality. Population, the bigger the dots, the darker the blue. A big dot on New York, a dark blue, California also. But is it only a one shot or is it true across all the years? This is shown in the scatter plot on the right in the screen. If you go and isolate only 2009, we see the clear trend across the line, adding years and years and another. As time goes by, the same reality is shown up until now, 2017. So we know for sure that the more people there are, the more deaths there are in the state. So this will be a main consideration in our study in order to know where to send people. But are all population really equal facing influenza? We know from medical articles that age is a big part of explaining why people are suffering the most from the influenza, namely child under 5 year old and older people. Here, I was able to isolate from age groups all the death counts in correlation with the number of people by state. So here we know that in 2009 in California, there was 92 deaths of kids under 5 year old. But as you notice, California doesn't hold a higher number than, for example, in Colorado, or Oregon, Nebraska, Idaho, which were states with a very low mortality rates. So yes, kids are vulnerable, but shouldn't really be used in order to focus in the number by state. As we see age groups and making the population going older and older, by the age of 45 to 54, as we are slowly able to see some sort of a trend across the trend line, if you see it. From 55 to 74, a bit even more. And by the time we reach 65, there is a clear trend. It tells us that the most people there are, the most older people there are, the more deaths there are. So older people are actually a great concern in order to focus on where to send the medical staff. And it is true from 75 and on up until over and older than 85. Now that we know population should be taken into account and age also, especially for the older part of the population, what to bring, what will be used now for 2018, the upcoming year, the next influenza season? Well, there is in this line chart a little projection, a little forecast of, of estimated deaths. And you clearly see that in January, December, January, a high peak also, up until March, there will be a season, a national season of influenza. So we have to be ready to send the most people from December to March. And for the states, for the where to send them, I did the top 10 states where people will mostly die, namely California, Florida, Texas, New York, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Ohio, Michigan, North Carolina, and New Jersey. The main focus should really be on the four: California, Florida, Texas, and New York. If you recall from the where and when here, New York was actually in the second position of higher mortality. But for this 2018, we see that New York is actually on the fourth top list, since there are more older people in Florida. Well, now that we know for sure that we will have to send more people from December to March, and mostly to California, Florida, Texas, and then New York, what's next? Well, next, in order to go further, the study will need to add some data about vaccinated rates by age across the states in order to have a clear view on the actual vulnerability. Then, sensing all health facilities will allow to decide where exactly each medical staff will be most needed in the light of their staff to patients ratio. And finally, a review on last year's plan in order to see its benefits and shortcomings should be advisable. Well, now, for any questions you may have or insights you want to add to this study, please feel free to contact me by email or by leaving a comment below. This presentation was made with a storyboard from Tableau. You can find its link just below the video. Thank you for your attention and have a great day.